Cole,
Yes, sir.
it's been a bit, but we're back. It's been 2 solid weeks, no Valorant, and then we had another weekend in the books. Cole, what a difference 2 weeks makes, right?
Yes, we went from one 13th to 16th place finish to another 13th to 16th place finish.
Now we were hoping for, and I'd say in perhaps even more demoralizing fashion. So, Cole, last week we asked a very important question, which is it better to have not tried than to try it and failed? And I think that we said last week, it's better to try. You can learn from your mistakes. We're going to have to revisit that, Cole. We're going to have to revisit it because I've been thinking a bit. There are some things that you don't want to try and fail. Skydiving, starting a Valorant team, maybe on the list. We got to talk about it, Cole. So are you ready to fast peak last week?
I am ready to fast peak last week. Jordan,
Let's do it.
I'm going to put some time on the clock. Let us do this thing.
And let's start with a little bit of a video show.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Look at us, production right off the bat. Got a clip here from our man, Hiko. Let's take a listen.
But that being said, I think that we, as in my team, as in 100 Thieves, we kind of lack a lot of the... we lack a lot of teamwork, I think, which is we just need to work on. So it kind of sucks for sure. And... we don't have a lot of coordination that we probably should have if we're going to be running a comp with a Viper. But at the end of the day, we put ourselves in a lot of favorable positions and rounds that we just can't close on. So it's something that we know we have to work on. Something that we know, is a problem. It's been a problem for a while. We have a hard time trading kills. We have a hard time when we're in 3v3s and, even man up situations, 4v3s. We kind of just give away picks and we die a lot. So, yeah, it's something that we're aware of, obviously, chat. Something that we know we have to work on. Something that we are actively
working on, shall we say. Is that how he finishes that thing up?
Yes, actively working on Cole. He lists some things which many consider to be kind of fundamental to this game. So I won't be stating anything new by saying concerning to hear. If you're not concerned about the state of the gameplay and the performance and the results, you're not paying attention. What's missing? I mean, is it just teamwork and they need more time to gel? Is it that these players are coming from a game that is very different and they need more time to figure out how to trade kills and take advantage of situations where they have the opportunity to close out a game or a map? What, in your opinion, do we need to see differently, Cole, from this team?
Well, the problem is that, as you mentioned, a lot of these things are fairly fundamental to how I'm going to throw around this phrase in jest so much on this show, but tactical shooters are played, right? And if we don't have those basics down, then we cannot expect to compete. So I don't know if this is hey, we got some PUBG guys in the team and that's what it is. Or, hey, Hiko, why don't you lend some of that expertise, that wealth of knowledge that you've built up over years of CSGO and port that over to Valorant and spread it to the dudes. I'm not sure which version of that is, better, but something obviously needs to change because that is a big red flag, hearing that straight from him. And kudos for the honesty, but
yeah, just call it what it is, right? The window where you can convince people, hey, we just got 1 or 2 things to figure out. Don't worry, everybody's going to freak out when they see another 13 to 16 result. Don't worry, guys, we got to figure out. I think that window is closed, right? Because it's happened twice now. And it's happening in pretty dramatic fashion. It's happening against the FaZe team that just got pulled together. It's happening against Immortals in embarrassing fashion, right? You want to scrub that one from the internet. You check with the the internet age. What do they call them? The identity groups who can scrub stuff and just let's forget about it.
Yeah.
But I think it's for me, Cole. the questions that we're starting to ask and the way people are starting to talk about this, it leads me to think, do we have the pieces we need? I mean, you talk about Hiko bringing some of his experience, the long-term CSGO, helping the other players. I can't help but think of Crowder, right? He had that. He brought that. His job was coach, and Hiko's not our coach. So I don't know if we have the pieces where we need them to make those kinds of changes with this roster as it is.
Yeah, interesting that you mentioned we don't have a coach, but that is all the time we have for that topic. Let's keep fast peeking this here topic here. We got another one.
Another clip, Cole. It's like the best day of school ever. You get 2 videos in one day.
Well, that's the thing about, okay, so here's what I think about 100 Thieves. Like, I feel like Hiko put out that, he never got to pick his team and they're forcing his roster or whatever. He hasn't even said any. Does he ever say anything good about his team, like, at all on his stream? Like, I feel like everyone's talking shit about his entire team, and he knows that. Yet he doesn't. I feel like he doesn't say anything. Or like how do you expect your teammates to play well when there's so much criticism around his entire team? Like, I feel like he needs to use his platform to build up his team.
So Jordan, the question is, how do you feel about that criticism being levied from JasonR? Sounds familiar to me.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, well made, right? Like, that's a little bit of what's weird about this whole thing to me, right? The announcement, the way we revealed this team, it was all Hiko. It was the Hiko show. He had the reveal video, the interviews. He was on Courage and Nade Shot. He has a massive following of his own. And then it was kind of like, it's a team game. Here are 4 other guys he's going to play with. We don't really know what he is. Is he the captain? Is he the IGL? Is he in some ways like the GM kind of putting this team together? We just don't know. But I think what's becoming clear is he doesn't seem to be playing the role of, I don't know, like when I hear those things, I think of captain, right? The person who at the end of the day would say, hey, look, we're working on stuff. We have stuff to figure out. I hear people talking about us, and I want you to know that while you can levy criticism on me, or even us as a team, like, we're all trying as hard as we can. So I need you to stay positive. We're going to make it work, right? Like, where is that voice? I think that's what Jason's talking about, that he's not hearing. Hiko's the only one who can do that. Which of the other members of this team is going to come out and say, I know it's not looked good, but don't worry? Well, they just don't have the platform to do it, quite honestly. And right now, I think the platform is what's missing. And we're not hearing that message coming through basically from anywhere.
Yeah.
Are you? Yeah.
What I think is that, the other guys don't have the reach and the influence and the power that Hiko has. Plus, they are the subject of the criticism. And Hiko, even though he did make that Reddit post a long time ago about like, hey, I'm excited to play with these guys, I was consulted through this process and everything, he hasn't been exhibiting the characteristics that I feel you would want out of your leader, which is defending these guys to the team, saying, like JasonR is saying, it's hard to play well when everybody's just taking a dump on you all the time. Mm-hmm. And if he is more on offense there, that can help free up the guys a little bit. They can't defend themselves to Hiko's fans, right?
Yeah.
And those two, their fandom and his fandom, those are not on equal planes. So that's a big problem here. But I'm looking for Hiko to be kind of the master splinter to Ninja Turtles here, be that sage guidance for them, right? Mm-hmm. But I also associate like Splinter with being like wise and experienced and everything like that, and leading in that way, which I don't see from Hiko, as I talked about the last time we were on this show. So Jordan, 15 seconds to sum up the rest.
One other quick point. His reach is crazy, right? You look at the views on his YouTube videos, it's like 5 times the heist. It's more people than watch the LCS at any given time. This is his YouTube channel. How far would it go if he got on his channel and started making statements? It could go a long way.
Yep. All right. Moving on to the next topic. And wouldn't you know it, we actually don't have a clip for this one. So let me put some more time on the clock. Jordan, predictions for what happens next with this team.
Yeah. It's very clear that the version of this story where they just figure things out and suddenly we are competitive is unlikely to happen, right? Everybody is expecting changes to happen. That's the point we've gotten to. I think that's one of the things that can be an outcome if you let the gameplay, the events, the placements, the finishes tell the story. And right now, that's the only thing we have to look at, right? We just talked about, we're not getting it from Hiko. It's not coming from the organization. You know, and that's a different thing entirely. But the only thing that fans have to look at is how are we doing? And we're doing poorly, right? We got embarrassed by Immortals. One of the map counts, one of the games was 13-1, right? I think it was first map, 13-1.
It was bad.
That's bad. And when you have results like that, what are fans supposed to do other than just say, I guess you got to blow it up, right? And start over. And I think the sense that I'm starting to get, these other teams who have adopted a different strategy, I think their strategy is playing out in a stronger way than ours is, which is to say they were more intentional about the players they wanted to bring into their squads, and they are winning as a result, right? And they have strong things to point to say, here's why you should be a fan of our team.
Yeah.
And I don't see what that is for us right now.
Right. And part of
other
that,
than Hiko.
Right. And part of that is people have made bets on players coming from different games than PUBG, for example. Now, it may very well be that over time things work out and the PUBG players emerge as like very competitive in this. That's not what's happening in the early version of these teams. So we are struggling to look like a team. Now, changes have actually been made. Like Val is now the shot caller for the team, and if you watch the videos from the FaZe game that Hiko posted to his channel, which by the way got like 150,000 views of each map, which is pretty insane, shows that there's a demand for that sort of thing. But they have the comms in there, and you can tell that Val is doing this. I'm not like Simo kind of talked about this, like who's going to be the IGL. It still like I don't have that firm understanding of the dynamics of this team, but it's still like I think about all the time. Hiko is clearly the best player. He's clearly the most experienced. I'm not sure why he's not doing that IGL thing. Is it just like they want him focused on fragging more than calling?
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
There's something I want to put out there, which is I think he's been intentional about not taking that position, right? It's his for the taking. If he wants it, who is going to say no to him, either from a Valorant perspective or from a platform perspective or from a popularity, right? He has pick of what he wants. He was the first person signed. He could just say, I was here first, dog. It's my, like, I want to do that. And what are you going to say to me? No. That's how we've positioned him. So the fact that he's not doing it leads me to believe he doesn't really want to do that. That's not how he wants to play in a team. And when I watch his play style, that kind of makes sense, right? And I think I heard somebody, maybe it was in our Discord, talking about, he's talked about that and how he doesn't consider himself to, like, he doesn't want to be the IGL because, maybe he was even Simo, because it doesn't lend itself to how he wants to play this game, which is he wants to be cerebral, he wants to be sneaky, he wants to get behind people, he wants to flank, he wants to get, these timings on people that you really just can't get if what you're doing is thinking about how the team should be playing. Prediction wise, I'd say we need to find that person. And if it's not Val, we got to figure out real quick who it is, because we need that. We need the leadership in the game. And I'm not sure that Hiko is the person to bring it for us.
Yeah, he's been like this reluctant voice for the team for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And that just isn't what you want. That's just not what's ideal for the team, in my opinion. So kind of hate that right now. And I actually really like him as a player. I think he's
fun to watch.
Clearly our best player. He's fun to watch.
Yes.
I like watching him stream too. It's just, it
doesn't
not
always
the right fit right now.
Yeah. Being fun to watch doesn't always mean that you are the leader.
That's right.
It doesn't need to mean that. Right. And I think we should accept that and start to look for that person for us.
Yep. All right, moving right along, since we went over time on that. Jordan, you want to talk about the strategy session we have coming up?
Yes, Cole. And this time it's not in-game strategy, it's org strategy. And we're going to focus on another team that decided to do things very differently from us. They were later to the party, but made an announcement and arrived with some fanfare. And I just want to spend some time looking at that real quick and then talking about, Cole, what this means for us and how we decided to do things.
That's right. So, of course, I'll bring this up here. The org that we are talking about here is none other than Team Liquid.
Big brother.
Big brother Team Liquid. So, going to play a little bit of this clip from their roster reveal, which happened last week. And if you haven't seen the full thing, I highly encourage you to watch the full thing. This is a 100T podcast, and not to gush over another org, but I think this is one of the most effective pieces of esports content that I've seen in a long time. So highly worth the full watch. We're going to just watch a short clip of it here. So let's roll that. All right. So, Jordan, take us into what are your observations just from watching that brief clip? And contextualize it for us, too.
Yeah. Here's the context. We crash out of a tournament, a major tournament, invitational, big names, the biggest names. It's where you want to be. This is why we got into this game when we did. So we could be in these early tournaments and start to make a name for ourselves. We crash out before the weekend even arrives. And then this drops, right? So I think no matter what they do, they have a little bit more excitement around them. Like they could have just released a screenshot of their note app on their phone that said the names of their players, and people would probably be more excited, honestly, because we're generating negative excitement right now. People are memeing us, they're laughing, like we're kind of a joke in the scene. We're in a bad spot. This not only goes so far beyond that, of course. This is incredibly well done. It's so cool, and it's smart, right? They match the names with the agents. It gives you a sense for who is on this team, what they're going to do. And the first thing I did after I watched this was I went back to just rewatch ours. We don't have one, right? Like we're just absent in this space right now. And so when stuff like this comes out, the proof is in the pudding. They're going to have to show up to these invitationals and do well before, or else their credibility starts to deteriorate really quickly too. But right now, TL, their strategy has resulted in them being, in a much better position to start in Valorant than I think we are. If we consider this a starting line, I think they're already ahead of us. Yeah,
and so interesting, like, first of all, when you say we don't have one, we did have a montage that came out, like a gameplay montage that was released.
Sorry, it's not on our YouTube.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's not like really publicized. It was in a tweet. And while the video itself was fine, I think this is what happened. When people saw that video from 100 Thieves, they said, oh, well, we knew we had Hiko and the rest are these PUBG guys. Huh. Mm. Right, and that's the takeaway. Yeah. When you come away from the Team Liquid announcement, and again, anyone who's on 100T is going to hate this podcast, absolutely, because we're talking about another org, but the takeaway from that is here are these super exciting players that we made this crazy edit to get you even more excited about them. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of intrigue about like what's going to happen, like how good can they be? It's similar, honestly, to how we launched the COD team. We announced the pieces of the COD team gradually, I think, if I recall right, like on Twitter. But when we had everybody in place, there was like right before matches started, there was a montage that they produced. Like 100T made like a really nice COD montage, and it was very effective. And these are, I didn't follow the COD pro scene before then.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that and being like, oh my goodness, like I am super hyped to watch this game and for our players themselves. This looks great.
Right.
And that's the takeaway you got, instead of the takeaway from our announcement being PUBG guys. Interesting.
Yeah. And Hiko.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're at today, right? The strategy you use in announcing these rosters and the players and who your team is, the identity, it sticks with you. And no surprise that that's still kind of the conversation, right? It's like Hiko Island and Save Hiko and all this stuff. I mean, look at his YouTube. It's not less popular now. Like he still has the same fan base. And they want to see him on a team that is not finishing 13th to 16th, right? So I think that this is just one of those things where you don't get to redo how you enter something. You do get to watch other people do the exact same thing. And this is an example, I think, of how to do it differently, right? And everybody's saying like, oh, the talent pool dries up. I mean, like I said, I don't know a lot about these players that they're announcing. It could be that these are a bunch of scrubs who are going to fall super flat, right? And their highlight reel was them pub stomping. Possible.
I don't think that's the case with Scream, but
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of the talent in this space enough to say like, flashy video, but it's not going to amount to much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who you're trying to get, right? You want, like you said, the people who are not diehard in the scene. COD, what we did with COD, we were much bigger COD fans following that. So for Valorant especially, there are no Valorant fans who you're trying to win over and bring to your team. A lot of this is generating excitement for a new sport with a new team, and Liquid knocked it out of the park, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now, so a couple of things. One is a follow-up to talking about converting fans to teams. There, I would say there is an element of that in the sense that these streamers, like Hiko, for example, they carry huge fan bases with them. So, so say putting together 5 separate streamers into a team, people who have established fan bases from CS:GO or whatever, and they bring all those people with them. That's a big deal, right? Whereas our PUBG guys, we did not have such a robust following around them, even though they were a squad. So that's one thing. And plus, if you grab them as a whole, you're grabbing less fans, right? Because instead of grabbing overlap from everywhere, you're grabbing the same people for all 4 of them potentially.
Right.
So that's one thing. But the other thing is, and just to state this more explicitly, right? The difference in approaches here is not just like what video they released, like we talked about that, but it's the wait and see approach. Like take a more slow, and slow is relative here. Like this game has not been out for very long at all, right? But we obviously jumped on a chance to enter the scene right away and capitalize on the early events, early tournaments, and try and own the space, right? Liquid sat back and seemed to have been more measured, more intentional about the approach that they took, about the players that they're bringing onto the team. Not to say that buying a team is necessarily an incorrect strat, but from where we pulled our team, it's not yet working out. Clearly there's going to be more time for these guys to develop and everything. But, when it comes to, as you said at the intro to the show, weighing being to the scene first against like sucking, right? Like you could actually do more damage in the long term. You could become a meme team instead of, coming in with a blank slate. So there's a big difference.
That's the thing that is frustrating and that I'm bummed about is I know that we only get into things that we want to do right. That's one thing we've been very clear about as an organization. We're not going to enter a sport if we don't intend to win it, right? We're not here to be that 6th place team. And so it's concerning and frustrating that is where we find ourselves now. And 6th place would be aspirational. I mean, I'll have this be kind of the final word on this segment. Since we entered in, I can't remember the exact date, every event we've played since we entered, here's how we finished: 5th to 6th in the T1, 7th to 8th in the Cash App, and then back-to-back 13th to 16th. So when you consider the benefit and the value of being in early, right, that is what TL missed out on. So they, I think when you look at that, it's pretty easy to say, in their case so far at least, they've made the right call. Again, we'll see how it goes when they start playing in events, but we just don't have anything to show really other than kind of a hole to dig out of when it comes to where we go from here.
And as KJW00 says in chat, the only team we have beaten in the last 10 games was Ninja's team.
Oh,
that is the worst way to put it. Like, I
Yeah.
should say the most like ouch way to put it,
Yeah.
I think.
and that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 and 14 in maps in
Right.
the last 18.
Yep. And look, I like Hiko. I like the signing. I want him to be a foundation for our team to stand on. But man, unless something changes in the near future, we're really going to have to like retool. That's what it feels like.
I think,
Okay,
yes.
Jordan, I think that brings us to the final segment of the night, which is our favorite moment where we get to use our fancy effects and transition for Incendiary. That's right. It's time for your community take of the night. Let's pop it, Jordan.
All right.
Molly! It's ready
Molly.
for Incendiary. This week's Incendiary comes from BurntCooter, which I wish there was some. I call him BC in our
I
Discord
put
in our chat.
BC. Yeah.
But just saying
But here it is, Cole.
out loud, yeah. He says
the
pick up Vegas, the old 5th member of High Grounds. Have him join his old 4 out of 5 members and have them compete under 100 next Valorant Edition or 100x Valorant Edition, is how you wrote it. They can play open qualifier tourneys under 100x, then allow Hiko to pick out or scout players he wants to play with on the main squad, or pick up 4 of 5 of Homeless or another orgless squad that is doing well. Jordan, your thoughts on this take?
Yes, Cole. This take was so hot that you questioned whether it was even taken honestly. But here's what I like about this take. It brings a little bit of a creative answer to the question of like, well, what do you do now? Where do you go from here? I mean, so if for anybody who's not familiar with the LCS side of the house, right? 100 Next is probably our most successful thing maybe that we've ever done from a competitive standpoint. It's a team full of people who everybody likes. They do incredibly well. They play fun games and they win a lot, right? So 100x Valorant, I love that idea. And the thing I like about it is it gives you a chance to reclaim the message, right? To say, we wanted to get in early. We didn't know what this competitive scene was going to look like exactly. We didn't know what the team would look like exactly. We just knew that we wanted to be in this game. And here, we're now happy to reveal or announce that we're going to be in with 2 teams, right? And here's the team that everyone can get excited about. And here is our reveal and our player montage and all this stuff that maybe we didn't get right the first time or have it go exactly as we would like to. And it's not that we're not going to have these guys, but clearly there are some things they need to work on. They're going to continue to compete under the 100x badge. I get it. It's a long shot. It's a hot take, but so far as hot takes go, I don't think it is so far out of the realm of things that wouldn't it be nice if, Cole? Wouldn't it be nice if?
You really saved that at the end of it with the wouldn't it
Thank
be
you.
nice bit, because the whole time it's just like, and I love BC. As you mentioned, I was not sure how serious he was with this take even because it just seems so hard to implement in any sort of way that it makes me recoil. Like what are you going to do? So if you move the guys to 100 next team, like what is Hiko doing in the meantime? Who is he playing with? Is he playing with them in both ways? Yeah, that's impossible. He
Oh, you have
can't.
a new
He
team.
can't scrim with
You
them.
sign a
Okay,
new team.
yeah, but where are you signing them for? If you pick up homeless or whatever, all right, you spend all that money on 2 teams now, right?
Mhm.
You've got and does that make sense really to have 2 focuses? I don't know if it does or not. And like, does the scene already have firmly established multi-tiered tournaments? Not really. What it has is just tournaments that they basically invite anybody who can play in, and everybody just wants to do that. Like TSM picks up and plays every tournament they can, basically, right? So it's so ill-defined that that's really hard for me to figure out. And then like, how long do you give Hiko to pick out his new squad or whatever? I think that portion is completely out to me.
Yeah,
So
you wouldn't do this until you had a different. Here's the thing that I think is important to keep in mind. I think eventually you're going to do this, right? You're going to say, hey, look, redo. Let's go back and rethink about which players are on 100T Valorant, because this ain't it, right? We've established that. We expect to see changes. So short of just making 1 or 2 I mean, we saw it work with COD, right? That team went from basically failing out and crashing out of the league altogether to back-to-back championships. I don't know if you can expect for that to realistically happen again. So short of finding that 1 or 2 pieces, I think you kind of have to say, we just need to reconfigure this thing.
yeah, but I don't think that's really like what we're expecting from the jump. I think right now, you and I would both be satisfied if we could just firmly be established as a top 8, top 6 team that doesn't get bounced out by everybody.
So let me ask you this, and we'll maybe consider this to be kind of the final question of the show. What changes would you consider to be the highest likelihood of getting us to the place where we're, at least making it to the weekend and not finishing 13-16?
Bring in
Like,
some players who aren't
and
PUBG players.
Okay, so let me do general terms. I'm not looking for specific people or players, or like, who would you like to see on this team? Is it 2 players you're switching out? Are you taking that approach, more measured, with like a check your work, or are you going for a wholesale shuffle?
So that's really difficult, because I think it appears to be true in the short term we've had Valorant, just like it is in CSGO. It seems to be kind of unpredictable which player pops off when, and like how to truly evaluate how good each guy is without seeing everything behind the scenes, right? And so when I look at it, it appears to me that Venerated is number 2 behind Hiko. And then after that, it's like, I'm not sure, probably. Like, Pride has moments, Dre has moments. I think Val has kind of struggled, and I understand that there's more than just KD to it, but it's like, yeah, I don't know really how to evaluate that. But what I do know is that I'm not sure that PUBG guys is the move, because players from other games seem to be doing better, right? So if it was me and I had the undo button or whatever, I would undo it and try and comb a team from somewhere else, whether that's players from everywhere or just a roster from like a different game or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. But the PUBG
so you
guys
sign a new roster and you 100 next these guys, and we're good.
No, I don't, because how are we going to pay for 2 teams? There's no coach. There's no GM. There's no like what is even the structure of this? That's what's difficult. Also, who is the coach of this team? Why don't we have a coach yet? Let's get a coach in there first. And I'm not paying 2 team salaries, like, especially at this point, like when, like I said, it's so ill-defined. So no, I do not like this take. I like him. I like BC. I do not like his take, and I would not do it. So that's
let me give my answer, and then we'll call it a show. I would say, if you're a player on this team right now, and the option you have is to play in some reduced capacity or be cut, which I think is a very real possibility. Just, looking forward 2 months. Maybe they're willing to play at a much reduced salary versus being, orgless, teamless, out of a job. So that I think is something, like, we have the leverage there, right? If what we're saying is we're gonna, I mean, I don't know what the contract is written like and what that would involve, but maybe the players are happy to kind of do an academy type thing. I don't know, but I think what is clear is I don't see a future where this is the starting roster. The starting 5. Maybe a coach is the right place to start, because we saw what Crowder did, and I think it's concerning that we don't have a coach. I agree. A lot of questions, Cole. We don't have time to answer them all, nor the ability to, nor the crystal ball needed. But what I will say is we also don't know when the next event is, at least when you look at the spike. So that didn't make our list of topics, but who knows when we're playing again. We've backed out of a tournament in the last couple of weeks. So even if we did know when the next one was, hard to say if it's going to happen. But I've got to imagine that there's some crisis talks going on, Cole, to try to figure out how do we salvage this thing? How do we bring it back from the brink? Because that's where we find ourselves in this moment.
Well, Jordan, the only thing I'd add is I want to be good. I want to be good. I want us to be good. May we
I also do.
Be good. May we be good.
I'd like to be good. We'll have another shot at a tournament soon, I'm assuming. So when we do, Cole, you and I will both reconvene here and fast peak last week one more time.
That's right. So everybody, thanks for watching. That was our brief show. And again, open to feedback on what you guys think about this new format, the weirdness that we're doing here. It's completely experimental. So feel free to shoot us a message on Discord, on Twitter. Let us know how you're feeling about how your dads are doing. And as always, we love you and miss you already.